Hello everyone, this is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be talking about position training and submissive positions in BDSM. Now this is one of my BDSM 101 style videos, so I'm going to be giving a general overview of as much as I can about position training, what it is, why people do it, misconceptions about it, how to introduce it in your relationship and start with training, and some examples of different positions that you can learn. Note, however, because this is YouTube, I cannot actually demonstrate or show you guys any actual positions because Lord knows what is allowed on this website anymore. So if you want to see or learn more about different types of positions beyond just me talking about it, I will put some links down in the description below that you can check out. As well, I believe by the time this video is up, I will have an exclusive video on my Patreon where I do actually show my personal training for position training, my own personal positions. So if you want to check that out, please do. Link to my Patreon will be down below if you want to see that. But let's go ahead and stop with the shameless self-promotion and go ahead and get into the video. So first things first, what is position training? What is submissive positions? What is that? What does that mean, Evie? Well, it's actually a pretty easy concept to understand. Basically, position training or submissive positions refers to when a submissive is taught how to hold a specific body posture by the dominant, usually specifically tailored to the dominant's preferences in conjunction with the submissive's physical limitations and abilities. So it's basically a way of the dominant having control over the submissive's body, the type of posture that they hold, and being able to have a really quick command on hand for a submissive to stand, rise, kneel. All sorts of different things that you can do within position training, but it's really about the dominant having specific control over how the submissive holds their body and teaching them how to hold those positions in certain moments to their own specific preferences. Now, what I first want to mention before I get too much into how to actually do position training and more about why people do it is I really want to address this misconception that a lot of people seem to have about position training, which is that there is one way to do it. And if you've watched a lot of my previous videos, you know in general, I hold the philosophy that there is no one way to do things in BDSM. BDSM is meant to be done in a way that is fulfilling to you individually, makes your relationship stronger and better, speaks to the specific way and the reasons why you engage in BDSM, either with your partner or with playmates or however your personal BDSM experience is set up. But it's about doing what speaks personally to you and enriches your relationship. Not what a rule book says you need to do, not what the internet tells you to do, not what Master Dom, who is the leader of the local mass organization and has very strong feelings about how the proper way to do things is. It's about what speaks to you. However, from the way that people talk about position training, you would have no idea that that is the case. I've seen a lot of things floating around the internet. I'm thinking of one particular infographic that basically demonstrates submissive training, and it's all about different specific hand signals. It's all about different very specific positions, and nowhere is it presented that this is just one example as opposed to the way to do it. And I always get a lot of questions from people asking, how do I get started with position training? What is position training? Can you explain how to do positions? And frankly, a lot of times I don't even know where to start with that question because there is no one way to do it. There's no rule book I can give people. There's no universal submissive position that every submissive has to know before they're allowed to call themselves submissive. That's not how it works. Though this is not to say that there are not certain schools of thought or specific ways of doing position training. Not everybody does it completely willy-nilly. For example, there is one subculture within BDSM, it's known as the Gore subculture, which is based on a series of novels where the people who have started the real-life Gore community take aspects from those novels, take the language, the terms, the behaviors, the positions that the slaves in that universe do, and turn them into behavior that exists in real life. So for people in the Gore community, there are specific postures that are learned. There are specific names that are given to each posture. And so within that context, there are specific ways to do position training. But the number of people who are actively part of the Gore community is like this much. Like, it's almost nothing compared to the larger BDSM community, although a lot of them did start a lot of the original websites around BDSM when the internet was really first taking off. So when you are actually looking for things like submissive training and position training, a lot of the first results that you get are based around gore, and then that gets disseminated and everybody thinks that that's like the one true way of doing it, and it's really, really not. For those of you who are not interested in gore, you have a lot more variety at your hands that you can use. If you are somebody who is interested in service, somebody who is interested in adopting a specific type of service or a specific type of high protocol, there are a lot of options that, like gore, do involve certain set standards or certain larger expectations based on what that is. So for example, if you were to learn something like English Butlering or Japanese tea ceremony and take elements from that or adopt those practices, there would be, again, specific ways that you would do position training. But by and large, like 85 to 90% of people who are doing position training aren't trying to follow those specific schools. They're doing what personally speaks to them and makes them feel good. But why does it make people feel good? Why do people want to do position training? Why do people find it appealing? Why do people introduce it to their BDSM relationships? And for me, when I think about position training, I think about, one, how it is a very universally almost understood element of BDSM. It's ubiquitous. It's in a lot of media about BDSM. It's something that I think people get introduced to and recognize immediately as being part of a BDSM moment when people see it. The image of a submissive kneeling as her collar is being put on. The image of a submissive looking up wistfully as the dominant is holding the crop in front of her. Those are things that we see over and over and over and over again, and we're introduced to these certain positions as being associated with the submission. So they have instant recognition. When somebody is introduced to BDSM, they're as ubiquitous as blindfolds or crops, basically. It's something that a lot of people are very aware of, which leads to a lot of people wanting to engage in it because, hey, that's like a BDSM thing that BDSM people do, so we should do it too, kind of almost. Which is not to say that logic or reasoning is bad. A lot of people start doing BDSM because of specific things that seem like, hey, a lot of people like it, I should probably like it too. That's just human nature. Now, beyond the sheer fact that so many people are introduced to position training and submissive postures through media, I think it's something that is profoundly powerful on just a basic level of human psychology and in the level of simplicity that position training has. Position training requires no tools. You don't have to go through thousands of dollars buying equipment and going to classes and learning from somebody else in order to do position training. It's just about the dominant being able to give an order and being able to direct the submissive to hold their body in a very certain way, in a way that's pleasing to them. It's a very fundamental skill that is easy to build on and build into other types of play. And it builds on the dominant's ability to have control over the submissive in a very intimate way that doesn't involve necessarily any kind of sadism, that doesn't involve any toys or tools. It's about the mental connection, the ability of the dominant to just have control over the submissive's body on this basic level, as simple as the submissive being told the way that they should sit, the way that they should hold their body when they stand, the posture that they should hold when they are doing dishes or when they kneel, or any of a number of other activities. And on a more basic level, different positions just have different psychological connotations, even subconsciously, that we may not be aware of, but that when done in a mindful way as part of a BDSM practice are compounded and made more profound. So you could be in a situation where you are in a room where everyone else is standing and you are kneeling or sitting. Just subconsciously, for whatever reason, your lower physical position can make you feel like you are lower than the other people around you. It can make you feel like you are lesser, like you're lower on the social totem pole, that for whatever reason, the other people around you that are standing or the one person who is with you is standing has some kind of authority or power that you do not currently possess in that moment. And taking that into a DS context, where it is purposeful where one party is kneeling and the other party is standing, just makes that psychological power element so much more profound, because you're acknowledging that you are kneeling because you are submissive. You are kneeling because in this moment you are beneath me and I am the one who is in control. And you are kneeling not only for that, but you're kneeling in a way that is pleasing to me. You're kneeling in a way that I have specifically assigned and told you to do. And you listened and you obeyed because you know that I am the one who is in control. And you know that I am the one who owns and possesses your body. Sorry, I couldn't keep being serious about that. I find it so hard to like impersonate dominant reasons and mental things. I can't do it. It's not me. But I tried. So hopefully you get the point of why people enjoy position training. It's simple. It's easy to build on, and it builds into other skills. It's something that's psychological, just even without DS, but with DS, it makes it even more profound. And it is a skill that is very buildable. I do want to emphasize that. You can build these skills that the submissive has when they are learning how to hold positions, of being patient, of listening, of trusting, of learning in a quick moment how to react and how to listen to a dominant's orders just at the snap of a fingers, more or less. Because all of those things are very transferable to other kinds of training that you may want to do. The patience that they learned while being able to hold a position for a certain period of time is transferable to doing a boredom task, to organizing marbles, to doing something that just sheerly requires their submission to what you want them to be doing, or something that takes a lot of time. And it's something that I think is really just a great place to start off with. So what I want to talk about now is how you introduce the concept of position training and how you get started with position training. So like a lot of things in BDSM, like all things BDSM really, you start by asking your partner and by telling your partner about what your desires are. So you introduce the concept, you see how they react, you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in introducing this element to our play or to our DS relationship. How do you feel about position training? Have you heard of it before? Is it something that you would like to do? Give me your feelings and thoughts. Just kind of test the waters a little bit. And with something like position training, because it's something that so many people know about, a lot of people are going to be very willing to pursue. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of people in existing DS relationships where the dominant is just like, I don't feel like doing any position training on any level whatsoever. Like, I cannot imagine that scenario. So there's probably going to be at least some room that you have to work with introducing position training. But because it's something that is so vast and there's so many ways to do it, it can be overwhelming to know where to start. So I'm going to give some examples of common positions that you can adapt and make into your own based on what you want to do. So the first one, the most ubiquitous one, is kneeling. And I hope everybody knows what kneeling is, and I hope you don't have to Google it, but kneeling, holding a certain posture. Where are their eyes? Where is their head? Where are their hands? How are they holding their body? What is the expression on the face that they're having? Are they resting up on their tiptoes while they're kneeling? Are their feet as flat against the floor as possible? All sorts of different ways that you can do kneeling, but that's a really great place to start because it's something that a lot of people can do naturally or have some level to replicate in some way. However, if you are somebody who has different levels of ability, if you're in a wheelchair, if you use crutches, if you have some kind of other mobility aid, this is not to say that you are all excluded from doing position training. I very firmly believe that you can adapt most kinds of BDSM play to suit your level of ability. And maybe you can't kneel, but maybe there's a lot of other positions you can replicate. And it's more important that you replicate the feeling and the mindset that the position brings on, more so than the literal position itself. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. Another really common one besides kneeling is to be at attention. So just waiting for orders, maybe waiting for your dominant to come home, maybe waiting for the play scene to happen, and it's just standing, usually eyes straight ahead, hands at the sides, and then from there, more variations. How are their hands being held? Are they at fists at their side? Are they flat against their legs? Are they behind their back? What is their expression like? Are their eyes straight ahead? Do they make eye contact? Are their eyes downcast? So on and so forth. So another position would be something like present, which is where the submissive has their feet shoulder width apart, they have their hands up and behind their head, and they're looking straight forward, and the dominant is usually able to basically have like complete access to examine the submissive body, and it's a very exposing type of position. There's another type of exposing position that's often referred to as expose, which is a kneeling pose, where rather than having the knees together or the legs together, the submissive actually has to specifically part their legs, so that way the genital area is a little bit exposed. Oftentimes the hands will be behind the head, like in the present pose, so then the front is also exposed. Or you could also have the submissive have their hands behind their back, or they could have their palms outstretched, or they could have them at the side. There's a bunch of different ways you can do things like that. It's up to your personal preference. Another one that's really common is repent or apology. And this is one that is used when a submissive has made a transgression, especially when the submissive knows that they have made a transgression but the dominant hasn't discovered yet. So for example, staying up too late, or forgetting to write down in their journal, or misplacing something, or breaking something, or doing something that would require an apology because it's broken a rule, or the submissive has done something that they believe requires them to confess something to the dominant. And this position is oftentimes very much like child's pose in yoga, and it's something where the submissive is hunched over, their chest is to their legs, and they are laying down, and then their arms are outstretched. Oftentimes the arms will be together like this, kind of crossing over, or they will be palms up, so that way the submissive is, actually physically offering their apology for the action that they have done. And another one that's like that would be something like worship, which can take that appearance. It can be something where they are very much offering how low their body is in comparison to the dominant as a form of worship or reverence. It can also be a kneeling pose where the, hands are together in a prayer posture, like this, or however you want to hold your hands, and their eyes are closed and they are, offering their worship to their deity or the goddess. The last one that is very common is actually where the submissive is just laying prone on the floor. They have their body completely flat, their arms are out, their legs are out, and they're just completely flat on the floor. This can also be an apology type pose, although it's not always the case. It can also be like the ultimate offering of submission, because they are completely on the earth, they are on the floor, they're not even making eye contact with you because they are not worthy of it. And it's something that you can do that, depending on the circumstance in which it's done and how you personally feel about the pose, can take on the connotation of complete submission, or complete apology, or complete reverence. And all these poses can really be that way as well. So the last piece of advice that I want to give for people who want to introduce position training into their relationships is that it can be deceptively simple. It's definitely more simple than a lot of the things that we do in BDSM, but not everybody is a kinesthetic learner. Not everybody is going to learn how to do 12 poses perfectly overnight the first time that you go over them. So patience is key here. I would start off by introducing 1 or 2 different positions at a time. You can even make it a weekly ritual where the submissive has 1 week to learn a pose. They present the pose on the following week, so maybe they learn it on a Friday and then present it on that Friday, and then if they have successfully completed that pose, they move on and they learn the next one that you want to be able to teach them. Now, when you are introducing different positions, there are a lot of different ways that you can go into actually teaching it. So for example, you can have the dominant write out how they would want to have the position held, or how they think the position should be done, and then the submissive can go by their instructions and try to learn the pose that way. Although that one is not generally the best, because again, not everybody's a kinesthetic learner, not everybody knows all the words for the different parts of the body, and not everybody understands, okay, you said to have my fingers laced behind my head, but does that mean barely touching? Does that mean this much? Does that mean hands clasped? And if things don't get specified, it can leave some ambiguity. So what I would suggest doing is for the dominant to give the submissive a command without any specific further instructions until they've taken that pose. So they can tell the submissive to stand, or to kneel, or to lay down. Start off with something that's really, really basic, just like a general body postures, such as sitting, standing, kneeling, etc. And then from there, the dominant can either physically move the submissive's body into the position that they find appealing or that they want the submissive to take, and then the dominant would state the name of that specific position, or the dominant uses words to explain how the submissive should be changing their body to get into the correct or to the desired position. So if the submissive takes a kneeling position and sits with the legs together, and they start out with their palms flat against their leg, and the dominant didn't want them to do that, but hey, they'd never done this before, so it's good to kind of know where the submissive's mind is at about how they picture these things, and then explain, you know, submissive little one, insert title here, palms up, knees apart, shoulder width, eyes ahead, neutral expression, and then verbally they can confirm, okay, that is your kneeling posture. And then they have them reset, they do it again, they practice, okay, kneel. And then you examine if they've done it correctly, and so on and so forth. And if you're doing this with somebody's body, the dominant will just simply move the submissive's body part into whatever position it needs to be in, and then they pronounce it by its name. So, okay, this is your kneeling posture. Let's try it again. And then introducing it over and over again. I would probably do it at least 2 to 3 times in that first session, and then have the submissive practice over the next week or so, and then the following week introduce a new position, and just rinse and repeat until you get as many positions as you want. I would definitely also encourage submissives to present positions to their dominant in an ongoing relationship as a gift. So let's say, for example, you don't have a position in your relationship that stands for you wanting to offer service. Maybe you come up with that pose and you present that to your dominant and saying, you know, this is my, you know, offering service posture, or whatever it happens to be, and they can decide to run with it or not. But it can be a really great way for the submissive to, while not topping from the bottom, introduce things for the dominant, so the dominant doesn't always have to be expending all of her energy trying to come up with poses and different ways of doing things. And it's a way to offer an act of service, and to also be able to further your own personal training, and also help you as a submissive get some of your own ideas heard, again, without topping from the bottom. You can also associate these with specific keywords, or with a sound, or with a hand position, so you can kind of do whatever works for you and the context in which you want to be able to do them. Maybe a discrete hand position that's done against the dominant's leg that they do very quickly, that the submissive is expected to look out for, is the way to go. Maybe you want to just call the position by its name. Maybe you want to be able to whistle to them and have different whistles at different pitches be signals for the submissive to get into a certain posture. Maybe you have a signal which is different touches on different parts of the body indicate that the submissive should get into a certain position. Maybe you do a combination of all of these, because different situations are going to have different standards, and it may not always be appropriate to whistle, and maybe a more discreet touch or a more discreet hand signal would work better instead. So just give yourself some more tools. It can take a little bit more work to learn multiple different cues all at once, but you can also introduce and pair cues together over time and start out with just one. Pacing really depends on you and how quickly you are able to both learn new postures and then also learn different hand signals. So really just experiment, do what works for you. If you guys have any comments or questions about position training, please let me know in the comment section down below. I am happy to help out. Unfortunately, this is really all I have time for in this video. Position training is something that is a vast area of BDSM, so if you do want some more detailed information about how to actually do position training and how I do my own position training, do check out my Patreon and the links down below for some more resources. If you guys haven't already and you like this video, please do subscribe. I make videos twice a week. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.